And welcome back to the second episode. Welcome back to the How My Podcast. This is the second episode. It's currently 11:10 while I'm recording right now. National championship for basketball has just finished. Wow. Gonzaga goes down. It surprised many. It surprised me. So, the way that I saw Gonzaga going into this tournament, and Ian isn't on here, he isn't won for college basketball. Purdue got eliminated early, and that's his team. So, yeah, I'm not even sure if he's up right now. I'm going to be honest. I'm just recording this one on myself. This was shocking, not because of Gonzaga losing. It was more the fact on how they lost. They lost significantly. It was bad on all ends for Gonzaga. Baylor went on that 0-4 run at the beginning, and it was rough. That was what really set the tone. The score was 86-70, and that first, I want to say, 30 to 45 seconds, that set the tone. The Houston game for Baylor was close, not because it was a close affair. It was just from the box score. I didn't actually get a chance to watch that game. I'm glad I watched the second of the two. But that game, the Houston-Baylor game, Baylor more or less just did a good job of controlling the momentum. I'm still kind of new on the basketball scene, but I'm one to always say that the momentum is what controls in that game. If you get your shots to fall early, if you can hit a corner three and an and one to start off the game, you're probably going to win. That's the way that I see basketball. I see it less of a chess game and more of a race to see who can capture the momentum first to then propel themselves forward onto a new level and capture the win in the end. And that's what you really notice when you watch these basketball games, is that very rarely do you see the team that jumps to the early break lose. Now, it sometimes happens, but when Baylor went on that 9-0 run, where Gonzaga had nothing to fall. They had nothing falling their way. Everything was just bad for them. It was a bad game for Gonzaga. Now, I'm not saying that it was an off game. I'm saying that it was just a bad game in general. It was bad for Gonzaga because they weren't able to utilize Jalen Suggs, Drew Timme, the way that they wanted to, and that was because of the early fouls that Jalen Suggs had, and they had to play with a handicap the entire game, where they weren't able to utilize Jalen Suggs and his explosive power. The highlights after him hitting that crazy UCLA shot, they showed him on the football field because there was a reason he was a 4-star recruit, and that's because he's a physical player who has a ball carrier vision of a running back or quarterback in the paint. You see that all the time. He's great at finding seams and pushing forward. He just got too aggressive, and one of those fouls was a little bit controversial. I don't think it would have impacted the game at all. I still feel like watching that game, Baylor was the better team. But not being able to utilize Jalen Suggs so early, pretty much already knocking him out of the game until third quarter, late third quarter, when he was finally starting to pick up on things again. And then Drew Timme Drew Timme is a good player. I like Drew Timme a lot because of the mustache, great mustache. But he is one of those players that if you put him in the situation to go up and score, he can do it for you. But if he has someone else like Jalen Suggs, on the other hand, and I'm forgetting the other player's name, 24, he's going to do so much better, and he had to carry the team. I think he did a great job, actually. He led Gonzaga to the 60 points that they had. He was the offense for majority of that game. And it just seems like as soon as Jalen Suggs was taken out of the game via foul, it spelled the end for Gonzaga. Now, I had Gonzaga winning one of my brackets, because they were a good team. They were undefeated for a reason. And that was the big storyline going in to March Madness and the whole tournament was, is Gonzaga for real? And I would say yes. Yes, they were. They beat UCLA. Was it kind of a fluke? Yeah, a little bit. But they beat them. And that's what matters, is that they beat them. It doesn't matter whether or not it's a fluke, you beat them. Okay, that's what happens in basketball. Do they have an easier conference? Of course they do. But they did go undefeated, which is an impressive stretch nonetheless. I don't remember who said it, but if you went undefeated, then you went undefeated. It doesn't matter. It was just a great job by Baylor. I mean, they were able to go off quick. I like how they played offensively. Where they started off the game hitting a 2 and then hitting a 3. That's a great way to start off a game. Get going good inside the arc. And I think those first points came off of in the paint or in the post. But they started good in 10 feet, build outward. I like that method of play style offensively, and it worked really well for the Bears. And then they were able to utilize that, spread it outward, to play that onto defense. They did a great job both offensively and defensively. It was one of the better performances of the offense and defense throughout the year that I've seen. They did a great job of stifling one of the best offenses in college basketball. I mean, there was a reason that they were undefeated. They could put an obscene amount of points on you. You could try and stop them all you want. And that was the thing going into about a quarter of the way through the first half was, okay, when is Gonzaga going to pick this up? This isn't Gonzaga. That was the thought. But as it turned out, that really wasn't what was happening. It was an incredible game plan by Baylor to end up halting whatever progress that Gonzaga would have had. If Gonzaga went into the paint and Drew Timme able to make a shot that maybe could have been called for an and one, it wouldn't have mattered because then I'm going to say Donovan Mitchell. I know it isn't him. I'm forgetting on the name right now. But Mitchell would then hit a 3 of his own. It was 2 steps forward, 3 steps back for Gonzaga throughout the entire game. They were losing by 19 at one point. You're not going to come back from that in the national championship game. No matter who you're going up against, you're not going to come back from that. And there's a reason, because it's 19 points. This isn't the NBA where if you're down by 45, but it's only in the second quarter, you can make a comeback in that. I think it's happened once before. Is it going to happen? Not likely. But this is college basketball where the shots aren't falling as much as they usually do. This is where it's a little bit more offensively based, where charging fouls get called much more. Defensive. This is kind of like a G League of its own, where you build upon your skills to get ready for the NBA, but it really seemed more like Baylor just controlled Gonzaga in this game, no matter what you looked at. And it was important to note how Gonzaga was unable to capitalize on any rebounds and any second chance points they got. Yeah, I'm pulling up the stats right now, but it was bad for Gonzaga just in general. I mean, they were out-rebounded 10 offensive rebounds to 9 total rebounds at one point in the first quarter. And they were able to Baylor was able to control the rebounds quite well. And the only thing that really stopped Baylor in that whole stretch was the whole foul problem that they faced later in the first half. And that was a concern going into halftime was, here's how Gonzaga can make a comeback here. First of all, they got to start hitting threes. They did not do great from three at all. Jalen Suggs was the leading scorer with 22, but it didn't feel like that. Corey Kispert, my bad. So Corey Kispert, Drew Timme, Andrew Nimbard, and Jalen Suggs and Joy Aiki. I'm not going to say that name again. They all had 30-plus minutes. Most of them almost had 40. And only one person off the bench actually had points, and that was Anton Watson. You can't do that to win. Whereas for Baylor, on the other hand, they had points going deep. Only 5 players on their team didn't score, whereas for Gonzaga, 3 did, but it was a significantly less amount because Baylor is so much more deep. Davion Mitchell had most minutes with 36, and he scored 15 in that time. But he really had more of an effect defensively, and that's what they were able to utilize, Baylor. Gonzaga was just unable to do anything offensively, and that was really what caused them to lose this game. If you put up 60, there's a good chance the game is close, but when you're losing 86-70, it's bad. That's a terrible score. 70 points. If you're going to put up 70 points in the national championship, odds are you're going to win this game, but they couldn't do anything offensively, and they lost by 16. It was just bad showing in general for Baylor. I mean, jeez. It's getting rough. I don't have the advanced stats pulled up, but it really was just bad. 3-pointers, Baylor hit 43%, where Gonzaga hit 29%. That's all that you really need to know. That's what decided the game. Gonzaga had a higher field goal percentage than Baylor, actually, converting 25 of 49, whereas Baylor had 30 of 67. But yet Baylor still won because they were taking more shots because they weren't having as many turnovers, where Gonzaga had 14 and Baylor had 9. Baylor had a lot more personal fouls, which is why Gonzaga got sent to the line more, and Baylor was able to capitalize more off of it. Gonzaga just had an off night, and you could tell when the score was 11-1 early. You could tell that this game was over and that there was nothing that they could do about it. Baylor had 8 steals compared to Gonzaga's 4. Baylor had 5 blocks compared to Gonzaga's 3. Baylor had 18 assists compared to Gonzaga's 16. They just got destroyed in every single bit of it. The stat that is crazy is rebounds. And this was, you probably weren't paying attention because you were more just marveling at the fact Baylor actually did it. They beat the unbeatable team. Baylor had 38 rebounds. Gonzaga had 22. Baylor had 16 offensive rebounds to Gonzaga's 9. That's when you're not going to win the game. You know the clip of the one Baylor guy saying that the rebound, when it was a loss, and he was like, the reporter was like, oh yeah, sure, why did you get out-rebounded by so much? Yeah, and he was obviously trying to lighten the situation a bit, I can tell that from that standpoint, but also he was trying to actually take it a little bit literally. Just kind of push the team further next year, because I'm pretty sure that he was drafted in the first round actually after that. But he was like, a rebound is where, the basketball gets shot, and then you gotta catch it after it's shot, and it's a miss. Some stupid answer like that. It was a stupid answer. I love the answer, but 16 compared to 5 is insane. That's an absurd amount to have on one team over another, and you're not going to win any games if you're getting out-rebounded 16-5 offensively. Doesn't matter whatever ratio you want to put in there. If you want to put in a 3-1, you're not going to win. You have to rebound. And I was in a group chat talking with some friends of mine about this, and they were like, oh yeah, no. Whoever's going to score first and gets out the gate running first is going to win the game. They both tied, pretty much. When you look at the box score of this game, it was 47-37 at half, 10-point game. Baylor only won by 6. So Gonzaga did get better, they just got better late. And that's what ultimately ended up losing the game. The halftime adjustments did work. And I believe it was Charles Barkley that was saying that the switch to his own defense was good. It was a subtle switch, but it worked well. And it really did. But if Gonzaga was going off that out of the gate, they would have won. Now, obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but Gonzaga's showing was just not good. And it's going to be interesting because a lot of Gonzaga fans are happy that they got Hunter Salas, the 5-star out of Omaha, Nebraska. I know him because I got to see him play twice against my school, in which we both lost twice. But that's neither here nor there. It's just seemed like they really wanted Chet Holmgren. Like, their big need. And this game exemplified it perfectly. If they had 7-foot Chet Holmgren in there, maybe it was bigger because he's kind of on the skinnier side for a center. Throw him in there. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you'll be fine if he's in there grabbing boards for you. But he wasn't there. And you could say you can use that as some sort of advantage. No, you can't. And Gonzaga is hurt by this. Baylor, on the other hand, has a good chance to get some more recruits that are undecided. It's going to be interesting to see how this entire thing plays out. One of my brackets, I did have Baylor winning. Don't know how. I don't know how, but I did. It was one of those, sure. Just a backup plan. This was just insane March Madness. Oral Roberts. There was too many things to this that just felt off on this one. And we all wish the game was better, but we got to deal with it. I mean, it wasn't too bad. But this one, tried to be a little bit quicker on getting this one out. This one's also a lot shorter soon. Me and Ian should be coming out with a mock draft pretty soon. Hopefully we're going to get this out in the next couple of days. We just need to find a time. We're both on spring break right now. It's a little bit late. For some reason, it's 2 weeks into the semester that we get spring break instead of actually at spring break. Tried to time it up with the weather. Don't want 80-degree weather for spring break. Not that type of guy. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Hot Mic Podcast, where we just talked about March Madness. I mean, it was kind of disappointing a bit. This was supposed to be a matchup that was Baylor coming in 27-2, and then Gonzaga trying to finish the perfect record. So many storylines going into this game that just kind of collapsed in on itself. Anyway, thank you so much for listening in. Let's hope for the next couple of days me and Ian come out with a mock draft. That one might be a little bit more user friendly. Gonna try and put some graphics up there for those of you who watch on YouTube, as that is the only way that we produce these as of right now. Anyway, this has been Logan Mosley. Thank you so much for joining me.